Meghalaya, the abode of the clouds, home to some of the wettest places on earth and also some of the most unique. So when I read up about the Mawphlang Sacred Forest on the internet, I told mom and dad that we had to plan a small trip around it. What transpired was one of the most memorable experiences in our lives. Here's a small cinematic on the same. After a 4-hour drive from Guwahati, we found ourselves amidst the lush green fields of Kiem, a village which was about 10 minutes away from Mawphlang. And nestled in the picturesque place was Kiem Traveller's Nest, a homestay of sorts offering A-shaped cottages with queen-size beds and attached bathrooms, which was running totally on solar power. The whole place was swarming with beautiful wildflowers, and the warmth of the Khasi people made it even more enjoyable. We couldn't help ourselves explore a tad bit farther, and damn, were we in for a delight. An endless sea of green, complemented by sights that us city folks seldom get to experience. Clean skies, clean water, but nothing was more important at this moment than, wait for it, potatoes. For miles and miles, we could only see potato farms, and this gentleman was more than kind to show us around. He even introduced us to the Malkin, who gave us a brief rundown, in fluent English by the way, on the produce, which was mostly red, white and yellow potatoes. It's a pity I don't have a better video. Tough luck, I guess. And then, as the sun set and night fell, we went back to our beautiful abodes, sipped some nice chai and pondered what the next day would behold. Come next morning, and we were out and about after a good night's sleep. We had some decent breakfast and were soon off to the sacred forest. We then entered the forest area. By the way, a guide is mandatory here, without which you cannot enter the forest. Ours was Mr. Shyam, a jolly fellow who spoke in a very articulate manner and had amazing photography skills. Mr. Shyam was very prompt in explaining the very concept of the sacred forest, how our ancestors would carry out various sorts of rituals and coronations, and how they would erect monoliths to signify different stages of these processes. One interesting thing he told us was that only matured males, meaning men with beard and mustaches, were allowed to enter these rituals. No children, no women, and no male above 70. He then went on to give us a brief rundown on the flora and fauna of the forest as well. I saw a rudraksh tree for the very first time in my life, as well as wood mushrooms. These weren't poisonous, but weren't edible as well. That seemed a little strange. There was a tree which was more than 250 years old, but was sadly struck down by lightning a few years ago. It wasn't completely dead though. We could still see a few fresh branches. The whole forest had a very eerie feeling overall, but Mr. Shyam lightened the mood with his photography skills, and my parents were more than happy to pose. The whole experience was very fulfilling, and Ma was not shy to put forward her review.
এই আমি যে হেৰি গৈছিলোঁ ওদালগুৰিৰ ওচৰত এখন মেন-মেড ফৰেষ্ট আছে তেনেকুৱা যেন লাগিছে অলপমান।
Seeing we had a half a day left to explore, we decided to head towards Mawphlang, often dubbed as the wettest place on earth. It took us at least an hour and a half, some insanely bumpy rides, but as well as scenic, and a few wholesome interactions with friendly locals before we actually arrived at Mawphlang. Everything was picture perfect, and the word pulchritudinous resonated till kingdom come. But then the clouds overwhelmed us. It soon became clear that the roads back home would be engulfed in fog if we didn't hurry. And that's a risk one should never take while driving in Meghalaya. So we quickly grabbed a few light bites and headed back home. Overall, this actually played out as a beautiful weekend getaway, and I'm confident that we will come back for more.